It's Lefty. This is the Lefty Show.
Welcome, everybody, to the Lefty Show, episode number 2. I thank you all for joining me. I thank you for your viewership. I thank you for your patronage. And I thank you, everybody, for the initial support on episode 1 of the Lefty Show. It went over swimmingly, exceeded my every expectation I possibly could have had, and I greatly appreciate it. Welcome, everybody, one and all, to the Lefty Show. Epic return. The revival tour continues. Next stop, your YouTube sub box. Perhaps other places on the internet. I am not sure. I saw some people ask about taking this show mobile, and as of right now, apparently I'm not supposed to break the fourth wall, and apparently it's up to other people how long I can spend breaking the fourth wall. But whatever, fuck those people. My show. Kiss my ass, assholes. But I saw some people asking about what they can do as far as taking the show mobile, because this is an audio-only podcast, no videos you can see, and some people want to take the show elsewhere, and they want a mobile application of the show, and they want to be able to listen to it wherever they go, perhaps while they work out. They don't have a laptop or a tablet. And of course, I totally understand that there are going to be in-video advertisements, and sometimes they can just pop up, and it ruins a point, it ruins the flow, and I totally understand that. I apologize that there's nothing I can do right now about it. I'm toying with the idea of going to figurative breaks, I want to call them, or fake breaks, and then just have the ad play at the exact moment in time when I do that. You know, I'll write it down, but that's a whole lot of production. I'm a lazy bastard. I just am. I'll admit it. I get lazy. I do. And that seems like a whole lot of work to remember where every break is in the show, and then go into YouTube when the video is uploaded and make sure that the ad times perfectly with going to the fake break that doesn't exist. And so I'm just kind of like, fuck it. But what you can do right now, and I do have hosting for That's Not Why You Called, but I'm afraid that with the show being multiple times a week, and perhaps being 30, 40, perhaps maybe minutes, perhaps even an hour long, eventually I'm going to overload my hosting capacity monthly, and then there will be a That's Not Why You Called episode that won't make it to iTunes, and that's just unacceptable. I created the hosting account for the purposes of hosting That's Not Why You Called, and I'm just going to have to figure something out for the Lefty Show. But in its stead, in the meantime, feel free to go to, I believe, KeepVid, and I believe there's other ways. There's like a little life hack, I think, where you just add, I want to say you add S, not M, because M is mobile. I think you add S or something like that to the beginning of any YouTube video's URL, and that allows you to download the MP4 or the MP3 or something like that. Otherwise, there are other applications that allow you to rip the audio, and I would prefer that of course that you watch the video here and of course leave ad impressions. That doesn't mean click. I just mean, let the advertisements roll, because advertisers got my network, and the advertisers got to cover their nut too, right? As well as anybody in the world. So I'd prefer that you do that. However, if you want to take the show mobile, you want to work out, and then you say, oh, well, I'll come back and finish the rest of the show later, go ahead and rip the audio until something else comes along. Now, once that something else comes along, I would greatly appreciate it if you didn't do that anymore. But as of right now, if you want to take the show mobile, go ahead. By all means, let me know how it sounds with earbuds on your iPhone. Let me know if there's any odd sounds, odd quirks, or anything like that. I'm considering other microphones, and of course I got to get to some sound absorption foam. So a lot of work to be done on the show yet, and hosting is one of them. But for right now, go ahead and rip the audio. And speaking of work on the show, I'm going to try working today on my ums and uhs, because I've noticed in some of my live videos on YouTube that I'm very ummy and and that is something it's not in an audio format, in an audio-only format. Ums and uhs are brought to light in a different way than they are, let's say, in when there's a video component. When you're talking to somebody at a table over lunch, over dinner, or when you're watching a video of somebody and they're talking to you and you can see their face and pick up on their facial cues, you sort of your mind slips a gear when it's in terms of recognizing audio, because you can then, like I said, pick up on the facial cues and you can communicate with the person on a visual level, or let the person communicate with you on a visual level in the case of video, and your mind kind of slips a gear when it comes to audio. And I noticed that in some of my more off-the-cuff vlog videos, I'm very ummy. And just things like that. And I understand that there are just, everybody has just kind of social tics. Everybody has a conversational tick. And it's not bad. It's not wrong. It's not abnormal. Some people, and things like that. That was one of mine for a while. I worked very hard to try to limit that. I remember early on in my YouTube career, I was listening to one of my videos and I said, I say, quote, and things like that as a stand-in transition a lot. And I've tried to I worked for a while trying to limit that. And the go-to that everybody has is an and an It's just a pause, that's all, to give your brain time to catch up or plot the next move forward. And it's okay in normal conversation, and it doesn't stand out. Now, again, in an audio format, in an audio-only format, it's still okay. Don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with that. And you shouldn't feel bad if you catch yourself umming and ahhing and pausing and prolonging sounds to try to give your brain time to catch up. That's just the way we're built. But I feel that in terms of putting on a show, when you watch me speak on a video, you're less likely to notice me being ummy than, say, when you're just listening to my voice. And I noticed that recently I've had a propensity towards doing that to give myself time to formulate my thoughts. And now if you want to get really technical about it, or you want to get really into it, now if you compare the Lefty show and what I'm trying to do, what you'll hopefully notice is that my cadence in the Lefty show is probably a bit different, more slow and prodding than it is in a video where I'm just talking to you on camera. And I think it's obvious why that is. I'm pausing, being slower in how I speak, my cadence and my pacing as a substitute for and all things of that nature. So I'm trying to work on it. And it made me think when I was thinking about it in bed, which is where I do some of my best thinking. Also the shower. I do my best thinking in bed and my best arguing in the shower. I am unfucking defeated on arguments had in the shower with something that only exists in my head. Just unfucking I am the best goddamn shower arguer that you have probably ever met. Because I eviscerate you in the shower. No matter what your point is. I could argue anything, like in the debate club, where you have to take up points that you may not even agree with, that you may not even like. I'll kick your ass in the shower. Now we get in a social setting. Where you can actually respond, and your responses are your own and not the responses that I've made up for you. Well, winning percentage kind of drops off. Not much, but it drops off. So I was thinking about it in bed, and I was just thinking about everybody's got tics, and I wanted to try to find a way to convey that in the show, because when I say a tic, I assume personally there's a negative connotation to the word tick, and it's unavoidable, at least to me. And I've got to assume that there are other people out there who are similar in that. They hear tick, and it's bad. It's a bit bad. You can't have a tick. That's bad. Gotta stop it. You can't have it. It's bad. People notice. Everybody notices. Oh my God, everybody notices. And now they're thinking about it. Now they're thinking about it, and they're thinking about my tick, and not what I'm saying. Son of a bitch. Oh shit. Now what are they thinking? Oh crap. Is this going to have any further reaching implications? And on and on and on and on and on. Racing thoughts. but it's not. It's just it's just a thing. It's just something. We all have different kind of tics. We all get into routines that comfort us in different situations. When we are thinking and having a conversation at the same time about something that isn't prepared, when we don't have a speech or prepared or something to read off of, well, when you're going off the cuff, you're going to catch your brain going a little bit too far ahead. And so you're going to have to try to give yourself time to catch up. And what are you going to do? You'll say, or you'll cough or something like that. And in any situation, you're going to have tics. And the key is to it's acceptable. Just accept it. It's okay. And then I remembered a time in college, my buddy and I were standing outside of my dorm smoking a cigarette, and I had never noticed it before until that moment when we were standing outside of the dorm, and he was talking to me, and then all of a sudden I saw his head turn. His body didn't turn, it was just his head. His head turned and it dipped, as though when you have something on your cheek and you try to get it off, you know, that move, but you don't want to use your hands because, I don't know, your hands are full. You got an itch on your cheek. So you turn your head and try to get your shoulder to well, pardon the pun, shoulder some of the load here. Come on, motherfucker, get that itch. And that's what he did. And I was fascinated by it. And I watched him for a while, and the more and more we talked, he did it one or two more times. And I couldn't help but ask him. Now, I was an asshole about it. Because, well, we were buddies, and I thought I was just going to give him a little shit. I said, so what are you, a fucking cat or something? What is that thing you're doing? And he said, what? And I said, well, what is that thing you're doing? This thing. And I did it. He said, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. And he didn't even know. He had no idea that he was doing it. And then I felt awful because I was, holy shit, what seed did I just plant in this poor bastard's head now? What did I do? Because up until this point, he apparently had not been aware of this thing he was doing. And perhaps nobody else was aware. And I was just the asshole who came out and said, hey, what is that? Explain it to me. And of course, you got to give him a little shit. And so I thought about that, and then I realized, oh shit. I should that really wasn't cool. And I felt immediately remorseful about something that happened 8 years ago. And I just felt bad. And now I think, oh crap, how many people, if I start talking about conversational tics and then just general social tics, and now the psychiatry or the psychology behind it, and the things that your brain can't control, all that notwithstanding, just the general things that we all do, some people are probably going to get very self-conscious. And so my message to you is, if you want to work on them, fine. I'm working on it because I'm putting on a show, and I feel that you're not going to notice the lack of ums and uhs, but you may begin to notice, you the viewers, may begin to notice their presence and their prevalence. And so if you want to work on them for whatever reason, if you catch yourself, if you're going into a field where public speaking is going to be something that you have to do regularly, then you may want to work on it. If you've got to give a lot of presentations, if you're going into broadcasting, or if you are going to be talking to a lot of people face to face or over the phone, then maybe you want to work on it. But keep in mind, it's all right. It's okay. We all do it. You are just trying to provide a luxury item, a luxury social item to people. I will have the exact same conversation with you that any motherfucker here will have. However, it will not be bogged down by needless ums and uhs and other audio cues that you have to decide whether they were important and disregard them or heed them as such. So I'm trying to work on ums and uhs. And that's something. Now, be gentle. Be gentle about it. Now there's somebody that's going to be trying. There's somebody that's going to do a counter. I know there's going to be a counter somewhere. Be gentle about it. It's a work in progress, just like this show, just like everything, just like life. It's a work in progress. So don't be so harsh on me as to make me feel bad, because I'm a fragile dove. Let's get into some news today. For those, see, there's one. God damn it! Now I'm going to be counting. Son of a bitch. Bob Hoskins, actor, died at the age of, let's do a little quick math here. He looks like 71, going on 72. Bob Hoskins died. You may know him. He played Mario in the film adaptation of the Super Mario Brothers. The awful, awful, awful film adaptation of the Super Mario Brothers. And I didn't know this. He played Shmi in Hook, the 1991 film starring Robin Williams. And I want to say Christopher Lloyd. Let's check that out. Who was in Hook? Dustin Hoffman. That was Dustin goddamn Hoffman? I've been living a lie since I was a child. I had, up until this point, up until right now, mark it down right here during the recording of this show, I had no clue that was Dustin Hoffman. Now that I think about it, it makes total sense. Now that I think about how Hook looked in the movie, it makes total sense. But up until now, no idea that Captain Hook was Dustin Hoffman. Of course, Julia Roberts. Smee. It's not Shmi. It was Smee. Sorry. My apologies. And Charlie Korsmo was Jack. And he has done simply nothing since Captain Hook. So Bob Hoskins passed away, actor, age of 71, and it's sad that he's probably going to be remembered most for an awful film. At least by a lot of people, by a lot of younger people, are going to remember him for his film adaptation of Super Mario Brothers. A lot of fans of Super Mario, and who isn't a fan of Nintendo's Super Mario, are going to remember Bob Hoskins as Mario. In the film, they gave him a first and last name. Oddly enough, it became Mario. And it's sad that such a guy, who I'm not even sure of his training, but he probably took his work seriously, as many actors do, is going to be remembered most for just an absolute piece of shit bomb. And a funny story about the film adaptation was that Bob Hoskins and John Leguizamo, who played Luigi, a very young John Leguizamo, played Luigi in that film adaptation, which apparently the hipster motherfucking directors decided, let's make Mario cyberpunk. No idea, no clue, no idea what they were trying to do. It was, let's take something that an intellectual property that in no way lends itself to movie making, and then try to make it artsy fartsy cyberpunky bullshit. And they just turned it into shit. But Bob Hoskins and John Leguizamo, during the filming of Super Mario Brothers, knew it was going to be a bomb. They were able to look around and think, oh shit, son of a bitch, this thing is going to suck so bad. Fuck it. Bob Hoskins and John Leguizamo, during the production of Luigi, started getting drunk in between takes. And apparently, I believe John Leguizamo crashed a van that he was driving as part of a take, and Bob Hoskins injured his hand, and Leguizamo revealed later that he said, yeah, I was rip-ass roaring drunk during that take. During pretty much the entire rest of the movie, the filming, Bob and I were just getting shitty. We were just getting piss-faced drunk because we knew this movie was just bullshit, and it was just going to be a gigantic piece of shit, and we just wanted to get it over with and move on. And it's sad. I guess, a sour note, a bittersweet note with a touch of comedy that Bob Hoskins is going to be remembered for a flop. And that's sad. Even though he played Hook, no idea he was in Hook until today, earlier today, and that was a great film. Many children loved it, but probably many more people are going to remember him as just the star of an awful film adaptation over which he probably had no input whatsoever. And that's sad. So Bob Hoskins, he gone, and it's really sad. Got a lot of stuff in his filmography, but people are going to choose to pin Super Mario Brothers on it. And in awful cop news, this comes out of Las Vegas. Now, I'll read the story. This is from 8 News, KLAS TV, Las Vegas. A lawsuit has been filed against the Humboldt County Sheriff's Department alleging deputies there unlawfully seizing cash from motorists traveling on I-80 toward California. One of the questionable stops was captured on dash cam video. And it quotes Deputy Lee Dove. He says, quote, in the video, he says, quote, I just smelled weed. I know it. I know I did. I know I smelled weed. End quote. The Humboldt County deputy never finds weed in the car he's searching after a traffic stop on I-80, but he does find $50,000 in cash and $10,000 in cashier's checks. Dove is suspicious because the driver gave him conflicting answers to his questions, and he tells the driver he's confiscating the cash. Now we go back to quoting the video. Deputy Dove says, quote, every day I do this. It's all I do for a living. It's drug interdiction, and I get money. End quote. Now a lawsuit has been filed, hopefully to try to get some of these people their cash back. I want to read you that quote again. I'm going to read that quote again. The one from Deputy Dove during the video. He found $50,000 in cash and $10,000 in cashier's checks. This is what he has to say to the driver. Quote, every day I do this. It's all I do for a living. It's drug interdiction, and I get money. End quote. Now, later on, there's a conversation between the driver and Deputy Dove. The driver says, I mean, you have no right to take this money. And Deputy Dove says flatly, yes, I do. The driver says, I haven't done anything. The deputy says, yes, you have. I believe you have. I believe you have. And he later tries in the video to seize the cash, but does not cite the driver, does not arrest the driver for any kind of possession because he didn't do fuck all wrong. Doesn't arrest the driver, doesn't cite him for anything, seizes the $50,000 in cash, but says you drive away and you get to keep the $10,000 in cashier's checks. Every day I do this. It's all I do for a living. It's drug interdiction, and I get money. That's how far. That is how far this bullshit war on drugs has gone. It's bullshit. That's what it is. When you get to a point when your fear-mongering gets to a point where deputies can say, when they are seizing $50,000 in cash, every day I do this, it's all I do for a living, it's drug interdiction, and I get money. When your fear-mongering campaign gets to that level, it's bullshit. It's bullshit, it's bullshit, it's bullshit. Because now we are at a point where simply having legal tender on your person makes you or puts you in suspicion of committing a crime. Having legal United States tender issued by the Department of the Treasury, having money on you, cash money on you, is suspicious. And that money can be seized, and you can be held for questioning and detained. And that's where we are. That's where all this dare, that's where all this the hash high, that's where all this weed is a gateway drug. That's where all this bullshit, all this fear-mongering has gotten us. Now, and it's even worse. We are in a society where fear-mongering is the primary way we drive laws, the primary way we legislate ourselves is by fear. Because it wasn't always this way. Having cash on you, a large amount of cash on you, well, certainly dangerous because it's cash, not illegal, not suspicious, not able to be seized by an officer, and that officer wouldn't say, quote, every day I do this, it's all I do for a living, it's drug interdiction, and I get money. Fuck this. Fuck that. It's awful. It's ridiculous that this is acceptable, that this is where we are, that now driving on the highway in any number of border states, Texas, Arizona, California, you could be stopped by federal officers and they ask for your papers. Driving down a street, just driving down a street now in America is enough to hold you, detain you, and subject you to a search. And if you refuse that search, oh boy. Buying a ticket to fly on a plane is now apparently reasonable suspicion to detain you and search you. Buying a ticket is now proof of probable cause. Buying a ticket to go fly on Southwest Airlines, Delta, American Airlines is now the codification. It now codifies probable cause for you to be searched. Take off your shoes. Take off your belt. Let this GED motherfucker feel your balls. And all because, oh my God, bad things may happen. People may die. Yes, people will die. People will get killed by drunk drivers. Jobs will be taken. Quote, taken. Because who the fuck wants to work those jobs anyway? By illegal aliens. Who gives a shit? People will die because of things, religious fundamentalists, any kind of crazy fundamentalists, or just plain guys from Montana want to do to you because they're fucked up, because they're crazy, because they believe wholeheartedly in some cause that they've been told all their lives. All of it. Bad things will happen to you. Bad things can happen to you. You do not have an unalienable right to be free from risk. And more so than that, it is not anybody else's job, certainly not the legislature and certainly not the government, to manage your risk for you. If you're scared of terrorists, you're scared of terrorism, you're scared of bombs blowing up airplanes, don't go on a fucking airplane. You're scared of illegal aliens taking your jobs, don't work in a shitty area. You're scared of, or don't work shitty jobs. You're scared of all these things, but everybody else wants somebody else to take care of it for them. And then they go looking, oh, well, can the government help? Can the government help manage this risk for me? Help? Make this smoking illegal. I have asthma. I have hardcore, no shit asthma. And I'm walking through a park and I see a guy 100 yards down the pathway smoking a cigarette. And there are people that will honestly tell you it's the smoker's job to move out of his way. It's the smoker's job to be aware of and take an active part in this motherfucker's healthcare. And it's just, what are we doing? Everybody gets a trophy. Everybody gets their risk managed for them. Everybody lets fear rule their lives. And and there are opportunistic people who will use that fear to secure more power from themselves, to secure more power such that they can seize, absent any other crime, seize your money that you are in possession of, because other people, other drug dealers, have a lot of cash on them. So if you have a lot of cash, you're probably a drug dealer. We have let inductive reasoning rule us. And everybody seems okay with that. And now it becomes, well, when you don't want to take your belt off at the airport, when you don't want to take your shoes off, when you don't want to get your balls felt up or have dangerous radiation bounced off you, well, then what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? If you don't want to answer questions at a drunk stop, what's wrong with you? Just say something and go on about your way. What's wrong with you, man? Why aren't you just going along with it? Because that's just what everybody does. It's pathetic. And I hope this Deputy Dove gets, props to the Tennessee sheriff who fired the officer caught on tape choking a suspect, choking out a suspect, not just choking him to the point of unconscious. You all saw Woody's face, right, in that one video? A cop did that to a kid in handcuffs. And 2 other cops stood by and watched. The other 2 cops that were placing the kid in handcuffs watched this other asshole choke this kid out. Whatever this kid did, I don't even give a fuck anymore. I don't care if he murdered children. I don't care if that was an arrest for murdering children. Fuck that. And props to the Tennessee sheriff who just straight up fired the officer. Said, no, fuck you, you're out. Gone. Get out of here. And then suspended the other 2 police officers who stood by and watched. That's awesome. Now I saw on Reddit that that this was probably more of a lack of, I don't want to say unionization because I don't think that's what it is. I think it's more of a law saying that police officers are governed, grievances with police officers in line of duty are governed by these things, right? These I think it's called the Policeman's Bill of Rights. And I think that's a law in many jurisdictions. And if there is that law, that's why you see a lot of this cop, seized cash from somebody that didn't do anything wrong or was caught stealing goods from a convenience store or department store that he responded to a call at. That's why you see in response to those kinds of things, suspension, placed on paid leave, those and punishments like that, non-fruitful punishments doled out for what are obviously egregious and possible crimes, what other people might view. It's not necessarily, and of course you can't go the other way to say it's not necessarily a lack of teeth on the administration of police officers. It's not necessarily a lack of will to put police officers or punish them for the wrongs that they commit. It is simply sometimes the powers that be are governed by law to not do that and to take these circuitous routes to punishment. Now, that's not necessarily the case, but I'm sure that sometimes it is. However, in this jurisdiction, and again, I believe it was Tennessee, I apologize if I'm wrong, that wasn't the case. And the sheriff said, well, fuck you. Fuck you. No, you're gone. Peace out. And that should be commended. And this sheriff should be lauded for that, for his just putting his foot down, his decisiveness and saying, no, that is not right. You are now punished, and this is a pretty severe punishment for you. So Deputy Dove, Deputy Douchebag, every day I do this. Deputy, every day I do this. It's all I do for a living. It's drug interdiction, and I get money. Well, I hope you're out of a fucking job. I don't care. I don't care what the rules are. I don't care what your supervisor told you to do. I don't care, because you know who also tried to do that? Because if Deputy Douchebag had said no to Commander Cuntface, whoever his supervisor is, what's the punishment for that? You get fired? You get written up or whatever it is for whatever the process is for police officers? Okay? The Nazis tried that. SS officers tried to say, yeah, I didn't like gassing the Jews, but I had to because otherwise I would be fucking killed. I would be murdered if I didn't carry out these orders. I was given this order, and this was the punishment for this order, and I did it because I didn't want to fucking die. And you know what we said? In Nuremberg, fuck you. Put you to death. That's not a relevant excuse. So it stands to reason when the stakes are that much lower, when the stakes are, well, I might get written up, well, deputy fucking douchebag, tell Commander Cuntface to go fuck himself. Say, no, I'm not just going to seize property from somebody who hasn't committed a crime. I'm not going to seize property from somebody who isn't in possession of other illicit, illegal substances. I'm not going to do it. But no. We get deputy motherfucking douchebag who says, every day I do this, it's all I do for a living, it's drug interdiction, and I get money. And that's what we get. And that's where we are. We also live in a society where the FCC now is possibly internally proposing a rule. It's not public. It was confirmed by inside sources within the Federal Communications Commission. The FCC is considering rulings that would allow ISPs like Comcast or, well, I was going to say Time Warner, but, well, they're the same thing now. Comcast, AT&T, Verizon to prioritize internet traffic. What we know and what is commonly referred to as net neutrality. Because right now the system is, at least the idea is, that traffic to the internet is not prioritized by any means other than the infrastructure itself. That if I have some rinky-dink podunk hosting service, well, my traffic, no matter what I have to say, as long as it's not illegal, no matter what I have to say within reason, within legal reason, is not going to be slowed down. Access to that is not going to be slowed down by any means other than my rinky-dink podunk hosting service, than my podunk bandwidth. Right? I'm some guy, I dig out, I put a server in the shed of my house, and I'm running it on a phone line. Well, there's not going to be a lot of bandwidth for that, and the speeds are going to be reduced. But Comcast, AT&T, Verizon provide access to that, to my network, to the internetworks, to my network at the base speeds, at whatever I can provide. And when you, now let's move away from offensive content, and you want to talk about, let's say, Netflix. And Comcast skirted this for a while. Comcast unneutralized the net without actually unneutralizing it. Comcast biased their network, their subscribers' internet access, without actually biasing it in any way. They said, well, Netflix, your traffic which rides on the Cogent network or whatever carriers actually are bringing network traffic to Comcast last mile backbone, because I've heard that in movies a lot, backbone. They said, okay, well, here's where your traffic meets our network. Well, we're just not going to upgrade the hardware there. Just not going to do it. It's just, no, not going to do it. And that inherently biased Comcast network. It just did. And while that's not technically violating net neutrality, that was a clear shot across the bow of Netflix saying, we will hinder our subscribers' access to your service if you don't pay us money, if you don't pay us blood money. Well, now the FCC is considering allowing ISPs to do that out in the open. Now AT&T might want to say, hey, Netflix, or hey, Amazon Instant Video, we're going to take bids to see from you, Amazon and Netflix, to see whose traffic is prioritized to our subscribers, to see whose traffic is going to get the prime routing in our network. Now, Netflix traffic, it'll still get there. We're not going to block you, but we're certainly not going to put a rush on getting your traffic to our subscribers. And Amazon is the same way. Who can come up with the best bid? How much are you willing to pay? And it is certainly a way Netflix actually responded to the very idea of this, saying that is double dipping. AT&T, Verizon, Comcast are taking money from their subscribers of their services for access to these services on the internet, to internet services. Duh. But then those same companies, Comcast, AT&T, Verizon, are turning around to the service providers on the internet and charging for access, or will charge for access, to their subscribers. And they say, well, what's wrong with that? And the FCC is considering allowing that to be done wide out in the open. And I'm not sure of the theories for why this exists. A lot of it is probably lobbying. That's how laws like in I believe in Kansas, that outside of Kansas City, you're not allowed, or municipalities are not allowed to enter into the ISP game. That is as a result of Comcast and the other ISP powers that be in that area lobbying for legislation and telling the legislators, well, hey, this is how it. Remember who donated $20,000 to your reelection campaign, or hey, you got an election coming up, huh? All right, well, I got $20,000, but I may not be sticking around in this area if all these other municipalities get in the ISP game. I might not be here. And if I'm not here, well, then I don't need to be donating $20,000 to your reelection campaign, now do I? And on and on and on. Probably not always that nefarious. But that's on the table. Comcast and AT&T and Time Warner have effectively paid the FCC to allow them, Comcast, the ISPs, to double dip for profits, or to double dip for revenue. Say, well, we're going to charge our subscribers, but we're also going to charge the providers of the services that our subscribers pay us for access for. Because what's the point of paying for internet if I'm not using it for things? If I don't have a Netflix account, if I don't have Amazon Instant Video, or if I don't surf the web, or if I don't do anything on the internet, well, I might as well not pay for internet access. But I pay for internet access so I can surf the web, Netflix, all the things. And Comcast says, okay, but we're also going to turn around and try to monetize access to you. And net neutrality it might go away for a while until somebody, I don't know whom, perhaps a presidential candidate in the United States, until somebody has the balls to tell the FCC, you're now going to regulate ISPs as common carriers, just like telephone service. And sex hotlines get the same priority in landline networks as donating to Jerry's Kids, as the lines that donate to Jerry's Kids. You can call up and talk to a sex worker somewhere, and that signal gets the same priority, no matter what, as Jerry's Kids. And that's just the way it's going to be. And that's how hardcore the FCC regulates telephone networks, and that's how hardcore power companies are regulated. You just got to provide power. I don't care how you do it. You can charge money and cover your nut, of course, but you have to provide power to our citizens, and you got to provide it, and it's got to be there, and you're going to be regulated in how you do it, and that's going to be the way it is. But ISPs, because we are so far behind, and of course because of, well, lobbying, of course, that internet service is viewed as something else. Internet service is not viewed as integral to people's existence as, say, electricity, as, say, telephone service. And so net neutrality may go away, and I don't know when it would come back. And I don't know what the internet would look like were that to be the case. It'd be the wide fucking wild west. I was going to say wide open west, or wide, I don't even know what I was going to say. I was going to try to say wild west. It would just be the Wild West. Who can pay for access to our subscribers the most? It's going to be the wild, wild west. Who knows what this patent troll is going to do? If this patent troll is successful in suing Adam Carolla for infringing on some bullshit patent that was filed with some bullshit agency on some bullshit thing, what does that mean for that? That opens the door. Wild, wild west. Holy shit. Everybody's now up for negotiation. Everything is up for negotiation. Everybody is available to pay blood money, whether it's blood money to the internet service providers or blood money to the patent troll. And it's a scary place that we're going to. Scary. The podcast has been a little bit down, I guess, focusing on a lot of things that I think are bullshit, but I think that's needed from time to time. I think it's needed to focus on sometimes, because the world isn't always gumdrops and, I don't know, rainbows. It's not all rainbows and gumdrops and plum drops and all kinds of stuff. It's not all good. And it would do well, or you would do well, people would do well to remember that. To remember that this isn't the best. There are bad things out there happening. And whatever your circle of influence and whatever little bubble you've created for yourself, because we all create bubbles. I'm not trying to say that it's some problem inherent to you. We all create bubbles around ourselves. There are bad things that exist in that bubble. There are bad things that exist underneath the things that exist in that bubble. And it's good to remember that. I personally think it's good to remember that, all this internet shit can go away. All this net neutrality. People love watching Netflix. Netflix.com/Woody. And people love it. It can all go away. And Comcast wants to make as much fucking money as they can. And it might go away. It probably will for a little bit. And it's up to somebody. It's up to, it's up to the legislature at this point to stop it. And, it would make me vote. It would make me vote. If a presidential candidate came out hardcore and said, no, this is not okay. This is not going to be acceptable in my regime. I am not going to allow this. I'd consider voting for him. Although, of course, you got to worry because Obama did say that he was going to close Gitmo. He was going to do it. And that was 6 years ago. That was 6 years and 2 elections ago. Obama said he was going to close Gitmo. He said, it's under my purview. I am the commander-in-chief. It is a military installation. I'm going to do it. People are held there without being charged with a crime, without access to an attorney, without promise, without even the idea of a trial of any kind. And that's not okay. I remember Obama saying all those kinds of things. How'd that work out? Not well. Anyway, guys, that's my time. I'm going to call the Lefty show there. We are a good solid 48, almost 50 minutes in. This show has been brought to you by nobody because we don't have a sponsor and might be looking to change that as the show grows. I thank you all for supporting the show. I've had a lot of fun putting on these last 2 shows in the last 2 days for you. I hope you've enjoyed listening, and I do thank you all for supporting the show and supporting what I'm trying to do here. It does mean a lot to me, and I hope to genuinely provide some information, some interesting insight, and some entertainment along the way. Thank you guys for joining. I hope you enjoyed. I'm out. Peace.